Go. Nice! Hello friends! I have just finished knitting my Rainshade hat and I'm about to felt it. So I'm going to turn it from this into this. So significantly smaller and much firmer fabric. As you can see, it is still flexible and I can manipulate it still, but it fits my head. You will need 2 big bowls. One is going to be dedicated for hot water and one is going to be dedicated for cold water. So I have ice at the ready, and I also have a freshly boiled kettle. Also have backup ice in the freezer, and I might need to go get some freshly boiled water. So in this, I have to make this hot enough so I can touch it, but not so hot that like my bare hands can't go into it. If you have very sensitive skin, I recommend using gloves. And then I'm gonna put a couple ice in here and whoopsie, rogue ice. Okay. And in the cold ice, I'm gonna just put my hat and make sure it soaks up water while I go and boil some more hot water in case I need it. You're gonna hear the kettle in the background, and I found that piece of ice. In order for us to felt this hat, we need to have heat, which is from here, to shock the fiber. We also dunk it into cold. I've found I've had more success felting with the two. It shocks the fiber a little bit faster than just having hot water. And then we have our friction, which is going to be partly from the suds of just some dish soap, but also we're going to be agitating it with our hands. So right on this hat, I'm going to be very generous with some dish soap. And I chose cold water because I like cold better, but if you prefer hot, you can pop it into the hot bowl. That's what it's called. So I'm just starting to get some suds from the water. Below me is also a towel, so if I make a big mess, I can just pick up the towel, and this is where we begin the felting process. You can use just hot water if you need, and it should be just hot enough that you can just stand it. So already my water is getting a little cool, but I have my kettle going right now, and I'll just be doing this for a little while. So feel free to stick around for a bit. So I've been felting for about 10 minutes, and you can start to see that we're losing that stitch definition, and that is what we want. These are going to get more and more full of water. Just keep dumping out the excess water. To make this a little bit easier for you, do this close to a sink. Another thing you can do is to do this outside, but if you do it outside, make sure that you have eco-friendly soap. You don't want to just be pouring soap out into nature when it doesn't need to be there. As you can see, I'm spending most of my time in the hot bin, probably because I've run out of ice. This water will stay cool, and that's really all I need at this point. So it's been about 20 minutes, and we're gonna check in on what the stitch definition looks like. I know I have a lot more to go, but as you can see, the holes from my yarn overs are closing. The stitch definition is less, especially in some places more than others. And I think the place that I've been neglecting the most is probably just the bind off edge, but we'll get to that. Woo! So now it's been a half an hour. Let's check in. I've got to have some coffee first. This is the point where you call in a friend because your hands are feeling a little bit tender, but your hat is coming along. Really losing that stitch definition, and it has shrunken quite a bit. We are about halfway there. This is where a lot of people stop and they say, oh, it's not working. But honestly, this can shrink down a lot more. And if you feel like you need a break, you can just wring it out, lay it to dry, and you can come back to it. Or the next time you do laundry, if you have a bunch of towels, which you will from working on this, throw this in on a hot cycle and pop it in the dryer afterwards. Just be sure that you've rinsed out all of the dish soap. Yeah, so just toss it in the wash, toss it in the dryer, and it will have shrunken pretty well to its completion. You might need to go another round in the dryer by soaking it first and going in. I'm going to keep doing it by hand. So in my experience working with other types of wool, there are a couple things that I've noticed. This that I'm using is Cascade 220. It's a worsted weight, and some of the color does come out even after, I think this is my 5th kettle that I've brought to my bowl. If you're using an alpaca blend, you might find that just along the edge here, it will be harder to control. The strands of fibers are just longer, and they tend to want to cling on to the other parts of the hat. But I still found that I made a really good looking hat from it. And my friend who I gave it to wears it all the time. We are at the 40-minute point. Admittedly, I took a little break and came back to it. So, we're starting to see some seams where the yarn overs are. And we're seeing that the hat is starting to get a little bit shorter. If it's getting too short, all you have to do is stretch it. Keep going. I'm all sweaty from felting, so don't mind that. But one thing I find that is helpful for shaping, as you can see, it is pretty shallow, is I'll put it on my head and I'll stretch down, kind of just around. Gives me a good idea of not only how deep I want it, but also how far along I'm coming. I'm feeling pretty good about this. But I might go at it just a little bit longer, just to make the place where the band will be just a little bit snugger. $50 minutes. We're nearly there. I'm just going to be focusing on closing up some of these seams here. Stretching it out where I feel like it needs to be stretched out because it starts to shrink this way. I'll check in when I feel like it's done. It should be in the next 10-20 minutes. Just about there. So that took a total of about an hour and a little bit. Probably an hour and 5 minutes. I had a coffee break, so it's hard to say, but it was about an hour. And here we are. We have this strange shape here. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to rinse it under some water. It doesn't have to be super hot and super cold, thank goodness. And I'm going to clean up this area here for you.